Well, you might have seen this with your parents. I know quite a few people that I've spoken to have. I saw it with my dad especially. It doesn't take that long to be experienced at this job. It takes 2 weeks to learn to drive a truck, or 2 weeks to learn to drive a tractor. It's just you couldn't find anything, you didn't have the courage to go on to anything different, anything new in your life, to pursue anything more meaningful. If you are living a life that isn't quite you anymore, but you're not quite at the life that you want to be living, well, then this video has found you at the exact right moment. Welcome to Mental Wealth. And my name is Jack Little. On this channel, we're going to be speaking about how you can become rich from the inside out. Because most people try to do it the opposite way, right? The other way around. Most people try to get rich on the outside, material possession rich, and they think that all of that will make them rich on the inside. But I know Bob Marley has this great quote that says, some people are so poor, all they have is money. So you are not going to have a rich life with a $2 mind. Now today we are going to be reading a poem from my first book, and I want to start doing this more often because it's actually the thing that I love to do the most. When I was younger, from the age of 12 to 18, 19, I would only listen to rap songs, and I would always listen to the song and then listen to it slower, but then I'd search up the lyrics and then see a breakdown of the lyrics and what the rapper was actually saying and what the meaning behind was the words. And I was so in love with that. And so this is what I want to do with also my own work, and maybe not just my own work, but some other people's writing as well. But I've written a book pretty much, and it's called The Seed, and I can give you a little background on it. The Seed is about it's about you. It's about you in this transition from your old life to your new life, and you're in between. So you hold the seed to your new life. That's where the book starts, that you hold the seed to your new life. Now, what is the seed? Well, the seed is your new mind. It's your new life. It's everything that you can ever dream. And it's in that order as well. It's your new mind, your new life. But a lot of people get it, again, the other way around. They want the new life without changing what's in their mind. So that's what this book is about. It's about filling up your mind with thoughts and beliefs that actually can move you toward the life that you're meant to be living, the person who you're meant to be and be becoming. So I don't know if you've done any gardening before, but when you hold a seed and when you plant a seed, what do you have to do? Well, you have to dig a hole to plant the seed. And this is where the book starts. And it says that what most people do is they forget about their seed and they just keep digging. They keep digging this hole. So they forget that there's actually a possibility of a new life, a life that's actually far greater, far more rewarding, far more fulfilling and purposeful, and they just keep digging. And then they get sadder and sadder and more depressed and more lost and all of these bad feelings, and their life just gets heavier and heavier. That's not how life's meant to be, right? You're meant to grow in life. You're meant to feel lighter. And so I thought, why don't we just start from the very beginning? It's actually the second poem in the book, but it's about the ones who keep digging. So I'm going to read it to you now. It says, your seed has been in the same pot for so long. You keep seeing the same roads, listening to the same music on the radio. You are in a job you only enjoy every now and then, and you think that's how it's meant to be. The end of your week leaves you weak, and at the start of your week, you put back on your mask that only you can see. You want the thought of a different life, but have only ever known what it feels like to want it. So that's half of the poem. And I'm going to dissect, I have some notes down here on what is actually the meanings behind these words. And by the way, when I'm giving you the meanings behind these words, I don't want you to think, wow, he's so up himself just reading his own poems and then dissecting the meaning. It's actually like, I've always said this since I started writing. It's one of the things I love about writing is that when you're writing, really creating, it doesn't feel like it's you. It's like something's passing through and it's getting it down on the page. And I always say that these words actually come to me. So let's go through the poem. It says that in that first line, your seed has been in the same pot for so long. Now, so many people are in a place, in an environment that they don't enjoy. I know Myron Golden, this entrepreneur coach that I watch, he has this amazing quote that says, you hear people say, oh, I have 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years experience in this job. And it's like, the truth of the matter is, you don't have 30, 40, 50 years of experience in this job. it doesn't take that long to be experienced at this job. It takes 2 weeks to learn to drive a truck or 2 weeks to learn to drive a tractor. It's just you couldn't find anything, you didn't have the courage to go on to anything different, anything new in your life, to pursue anything more meaningful. So that's why you've just stayed in that job. You don't have experience in that job. You've just been stuck for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And it's a harsh truth, isn't it? But I think, and I'm sure you're seeing this as well, that many people don't stay in jobs for that long anymore. Like it used to be common in our parents' generation that they would just stay in that same job for so long. But this new generation, this new wave of people, they want to be going on to something that means something more to them. They know that there's something more. And so that's what this book moves you towards. And that's what I'm going to try and move you towards as well. Well, I'm not going to try. I am going to move you toward with this YouTube channel as well. So what environment means. So your seed has been in the pot for so long. So we're talking about environment here. So what the word environment means, I spoke about it in my last video as well. It means to surround. So if you're this dot in the middle and around you is your environment, then that means if you're in the middle of this circle and your environment is around you, then that's all you see. You only see what's in the environment. And what happens if you stay in this environment, if you stay in this familiar pot that you've been in for so long, if you keep doing what you've been doing for so long, well, you might have seen this with your parents. I know quite a few people that I've spoken to have. I saw it with my dad especially, that what happens with this circle, this environment that's around you, is it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because you just keep doing the same routines. You keep having the same thoughts. And so I'm sure you've seen this with your parents, that they have their routines, but they're so set on their routines, like they don't change them that much. And that's what happens. It's what happens when you just stay in that familiar environment, that same pot that you've been in. We need change. We actually crave change. Your soul craves change. But most people aren't living from their soul. They're living a very surface level life, right? But to get depth, to get to your soul, to get to your heart, to live, to know what that feels like, to be living in those places, you have to change. You have to get out of that familiar environment. Okay, that next line, you keep seeing the same roads. Now, I remember when I was driving, when I was 20 years old, I was driving to a bar because I was working in a bar for like 9 months. And every time that I would drive there, I would stop at the traffic lights and I would just look into other people's windows. And I always saw them sad. And it didn't really matter where I would look, but everyone just seemed like emotionless and depressed. And I realized it was because where they were driving toward was not where they really wanted to go. And I would kind of laugh about this on the way there, but I didn't hear it myself. Like the things that you think about other people are actually things that you have to tell yourself. So here I was in the car looking at these people like, oh, they're driving to somewhere where they don't want to be. But I was doing the exact same thing. And so it takes quite a lot of practice, mental, and this is part of mental wealth, right? Is to hear the thoughts that have been going around in your head about other people and realize that you're actually talking to yourself. So I was driving to the bar. I didn't want to go there. So I had to change something, and I did. I quit the bar very soon after that. So then the next line, it says listening to the same music on the radio. Now, do you see in those two lines, it says you keep seeing the same roads. Listening, seeing, and listening. These are the senses. These senses go down the more that you stay in this repetitious cycle. They just go down. You listen less. Like I spoke about going to the bar before. That thought was crossing my mind over and over again every single day that I would go to the bar, but I just couldn't hear myself as well because I was numbing my senses. My ability to listen to myself was going down. My ability to see where I was actually going was going down. And there's that repetition in there as well of the word same. And I know Albert Einstein, I quote this a lot, but Albert Einstein has this quote that says, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome, a different result. And I thought about this for quite some time, and I actually don't think people are like, for example, your parents or maybe yourself. I don't think that they repeat the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome. I don't think that they do that. I actually think that most people have just lost hope in a different outcome. So they just keep doing the same thing that they've been doing. So when you get to that point in your life where you're just going through the motions, you start to become emotionless. So like I spoke about before, your senses go down. You start to feel less, think less. And you're actually like screaming to go and do something different, but because you're just going so through the motions, you lose that hope. And maybe you're not even aware of that. But these emotions that you might be feeling, that your parents might have felt, or are feeling currently, emotions are teachers. I learned this a lot when I was consuming psychedelics, that all of these feelings were coming for a reason. Like the feelings that you have in your life right now of being stuck and wanting to go toward a new life, but you're not sure how to get there, but you don't want to stay in this old life, that's coming for a reason. If you're going to an environment right now and you know that that environment is actually not the place where you're really meant to be, it's actually not helping you grow as much as it could, then that feeling is coming for a reason. These are all teachers. And you're like, okay, well, how do I know what they want to be teaching me then, these feelings? Like, what are they trying to teach me? Well, why don't you ask them? Like, go into yourself. This is part of mental wealth. Go into yourself. Ask the emotions questions. Ask them, what are you trying to teach me? The answer might just pop up. And that's when you start being able to, you start listening to yourself again. Because you've been wanting to listen to yourself again, but again, you just haven't heard it. You want to start seeing where you're actually really going. Like I remember one day, and this was when I was coaching at a tennis club, which was a great job, right? But I knew that I was meant for something more. I knew that I could do something more with my life. And I remember walking out of that tennis club. It's actually another poem in the book. I remember walking out of this tennis club one day of being there for a couple years, and my hat fell on the floor. Now, this might seem like, oh, what's the significance of that? But for the past 2 weeks, my hat kept falling on the floor every time I walked out of the place. And after 2 weeks, I'm like, wait, this keeps happening. Why is this happening? And I was looking around, and there was no wind at all. And I picked it up, and I realized that I don't want to pick this hat up. I don't want to pick this tennis hat up. I don't want to do this anymore. And so it was in that moment I realized that either I saw the next 10, 20 years of my life, and it was clear what I would be doing for those years. But then if I left the hat on the floor and I didn't continue what I'd been doing, then I was going into this unknown space, and I had no idea what was going to happen or where I was going to go, who I was going to be, who I was going to meet. But I just knew that that was the right thing to do. Now we come to that next line that says, the end of your week leaves you weak. Now this is how most people are living, that they can't wait for their week to finish, but they also don't want it to start again. And that is just a terrible, that is not a good life to be living. If you can't wait for the place that you're working at or the week that you're living consistently to end, but then you don't want it to start again, well, that sucks. You don't want it to finish. You don't want it to start. You just don't, you're telling yourself, again, this is the teaching, that you just don't want this life. You're ready to go on to something different. And so I remember that my uncle, he told me this story of him going to a job for 30 years, and every single day he had to put on a mask, and he had to do what he needed to do to bring in money and support his wife, who is my auntie, and to create the life that they wanted, right? And I was thinking to myself when he told me this, that I really don't want to do that. I really don't want to put on a mask for 30 years of my life. 5 days a week, every single week for 30 years. That's a long time. You're spending more time, you're spending more waking hours being somebody else than trying to be yourself, than finding a better version of yourself. And so that's when this mask line, it says, you put back on your mask that only you can see. Only you can see it. Nobody else is going to see it for you. Nobody else is going to tell you, oh, you're being someone else here. Like, you have to tell yourself. You have to realize you're being someone else. And so you will show a character until you show your true character. And that true character will probably want to get out of what that character's been doing. I know Jim Carrey has this fantastic quote that says, we have to re-look at the way we look at the word depressed, because most people are quietly depressed. Like, they're not enjoying the life that they're living, right? Like we're speaking about with this poem. They just keep digging that hole, digging their rock bottom. And Jim Carrey says we need to change the way we think about the word depressed. It's not, depressed doesn't mean sad or you're going into this negative hole. It means we need to break it down, and it's deep rest. So we need deep rest from the character that we've been playing. Because you have to realize that your identity, like who you've been being so far in your life, is not concrete. It's not stone. It's wind. Identity is wind. It's meant to constantly change. I know there's also this great story of a songwriter who used to go into op shops with his friend, and he would go into the op shop and then he would come out with a completely different outfit. But he wouldn't only come out with a completely different outfit, he would leave his old clothes in the op shop. And not only would he leave his old clothes in the op shop, but when he got out of the shop, he would start walking differently. He would start talking differently. He would start acting differently. So he took on that new identity. And that's how quickly it can change. But of course, a lot of people are so tied to their past that they find it very difficult to let it go and create this new person, this new identity that actually moves you toward where you want to go and what you want to be doing, who you want to be. Okay, so the last line of this, and this is only half of the poem, by the way. I didn't want these videos to be crazy long because I can kind of go on and on with these things. But it says, you want the thought of a different life. If you've been thinking that, that means that you're now conscious of it. So you're now aware of it. But that's where most people stay. That's where many people, because I believe that people are actually smarter than they think. They're actually a lot more aware than what they think. They haven't really realized it yet. And so what people end up doing is they get in this really dreamy state and they get really attached to this fantasy idea of a different life. But then they're telling their own brains, their mind, that this is a dream, like it's not real. So I'm just going to keep it up here because it can't be real. It's a dreamy thing. It's just a thought. I know my soon-to-be wife, she coaches this woman, and this woman wants to lose 10 kilograms. And I'm just going to call her my wife. My wife asked her, have you been eating properly? Like, have you been eating the right things? Because she's given her a few tips on what to eat and stuff, because when you want to lose 10 kilograms, it's not just about the training itself in the gym, it's also about what you eat outside the gym. And she said, well, no, I haven't, but at least I'm conscious of what I'm eating now. And it's like, okay, well, great. That's great that you're conscious of it. That's great that you're aware of it. But in order to have the transformation that you're looking for, awareness is the very first step. Like, that's great that you're aware, but now you have to actually do. Like, you have to act it out. You have to do something about it in order to have the transformation. And so awareness is just the first step, but it's not the last. And that's what I wanted to mainly get out of this video today, is to make you aware that where you are now is exactly where you're meant to be. And that's kind of where the book starts. It's like you're digging this hole because you're ready to plant the seed toward your new life, right? But again, most people just keep digging their hole. But you can use this rock bottom that you feel like you're at as a turning point. You can use it to plant the seed and start to grow into something that you haven't been before. But in order to do that, remember that seed, it represents your mind, your new life, and it's everything that you could ever dream. But it's in that order: your new mind, your new life. So your mind comes first. You need to change what's up here in order to change your behavior. So let me know what you think of this video and what line resonated with you the most, maybe what story resonated with you the most. I think I'm going to do this more often because this is just what I love to do. And I feel like my other videos, they've been fine, but I feel like sometimes I have to force it a bit too much. Whereas this just comes really easily. Like what I love to do is write, and I love to also coach people. So, well, I don't know why I emphasize people. Like I like to coach apples. But yeah, this is what I love to do. So I'm just going to keep doing this on this YouTube channel, keep reading out my poems, maybe some other people's work as well, and giving you the meaning behind it, and with the hope that it can transform something in your day-to-day. Because remember, transformation is not just like some faraway thing. It's just a matter of you changing what you do in your day. And in order to change what you do in your day, you have to become mentally wealthy. I hope this video has done wonders for your world. As always, my name is Jack Little. Be kind, be caring, be courageous, and I'll see you in the next video. Lots of love.